The PLC team you will see in this video is composed of elementary school teachers who will be collaboratively analyzing the data from a common summative assessment. They gave this assessment to their students at the end of a unit of study. PLC teams engage in this process for a number of reasons. First, the team monitors the learning of all of the students across a grade level. No longer is a teacher working within a silo and focused only on his or her students. Second, analyzing the end-of-unit common assessments leads to decisions about revising curriculum units and revising assessments so that both teaching and learning can be improved. Finally, the PLC team begins to identify targeted professional learning needs and opportunities as they seek to improve their practice. One way that the team analyzes student assessment data is through a template that captures student scores in relation to specific student learning objectives. This can also be done electronically using a number of tools, including Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets. Remember, though, that it's not enough to just discuss and analyze general student scores. The data must be broken down so that teachers can see how each student performed in relation to the specific student learning objectives of the unit. This information allows teachers to adjust future units and instruction as well. In other words, summative assessment data can be used formatively to improve student learning. Let's take a look at a PLC team engaged in this dialogue.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Very good.
Great. Well, today we're going to be looking at our summative assessment data from our operations with fractions unit. And before we get started, like we always do, we're going to start by going over our PLC norms, just to make sure we're all on the same table with those. All right. So we're going to honor our start and end time. So thank you very much for coming in on time today. We're going to state the objective and stay focused. We're going to actively listen and participate. We're going to voice and respond to concerns positively and non-judgmentally. We'll address violations of the norms, and we'll slow down to think, reflect, and puzzle about things. So is everyone in agreement with those norms?
Sounds good.
Great. Although we use these norms for all of our PLC meetings, it's important to actually look at some specific guidelines for how we're going to deal with analyzing data. So number one, we're going to be honest about what the data is saying about our current reality. Number two, no blaming. Number three, we're going to focus on what the data says about the progress of each student. Number four, we're going to recognize that it is not about us. The data is not a reflection of our teaching, it's a reflection of student learning. So what we do with the data is a reflection of our professionalism. Number five, we're going to reflect on how unit activities or strategies can be revised. Number six, we're going to share best practices as well as things that may not have worked out how we planned. Number seven, we're going to review the assessment to ensure it effectively measures the student learning objectives. Number eight, if there's formative assessment, so we want to make sure that we use the data to plan the next instructional steps, including flexible grouping, differentiation, and intervention. Number nine, and this is a summative assessment, we're going to discuss how we will address students who did not meet proficiency. And finally, do we need to make any revisions to the unit as a whole or to the assessment? And do we need to find further professional resources to help us make revisions? So we know that in the past, it's worked really well when we let other people lead the discussion. So I was thinking, Robin, today, if you wanted to lead us in discussing our summative assessment data.
So we're just going to follow the steps as we usually do in analyzing the summative assessment data. So we're going to use the green for the advanced or proficient students, that's the 3s and the 4s. The yellow for developing, so highlight those students in yellow that have a 2. And any students that have a 1, we're going to use the pink highlighter.
Robin, we're going to highlight our formative assessment data as well.
Yes, do both sets. Because we want to look at those student learning objectives, those first 2 that we did, and do some comparing. Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, so what did you see with the highlighting? What did that tell us?
Well, I noticed that overall, my students were widely proficient and advanced proficient in most of these learning objectives. However, learning objective number 2, which was to decompose a fraction into a sum of fractions with the same denominator, that was the learning objective that my students struggled with the most. So 10 out of 18 were below proficient. So really, number 2 is what stood out to me.
So we talked about a little bit just now about which student learning objectives have the greatest number of students highlighted in yellow and pink. What do you think their scores on each part of the rubric tell us?
When I was highlighting my information, I found that the learning objective number 5 had stumped my students the most, multiplying whole numbers and fractions. But I definitely want to look back at their tests individually just to see if it was a multiplication issue or if they actually weren't able to do that particular skill of multiplying a whole number to a fraction. That was 12 out of my 18 that did not succeed there.
The summative assessment that we did, do you feel it effectively measured the student achievement, or do we need to do some revisions?
I felt that, you know, when we developed the assessment, after we had unpacked the standards and we went and came up with our instructional plan, I felt that our assessment that we created was pretty strong. The assessment questions, they all applied to these 5 learning objectives. So I feel that it doesn't need revision. It's, you know, that we need to take a look at our strategies and activities that we're doing with the students.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. What interventions were used throughout the unit with the students highlighted in pink and yellow? Did they continue to make the same errors?
I'm noticing that I have at least 3 students who in student learning objective number 2, which was our weakness, whose scores actually went down from the formative assessment to the summative assessment. That's concerning for me as a teacher. I think I may have rushed some of them. I also have one student that I'm pretty concerned about. You know, she's had some struggles all year, and particularly in this unit. So I would really like to do some one-on-one work with her, or if there's any students that we collectively see that need that extra instruction, maybe we could send them all to one classroom for a few days and give them that really intensive instruction.
Will these student learning objectives be addressed again, and in what unit?
We all know that fractions are such an integral part of 4th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that
they carry on.
I know
carry
that
on.
they do come back again in our measurement and data unit. So we really need to make sure that they have that strong base.
So we might have to do some more reteaching and coming up with some specific summative assessments that actually target our weaker areas.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What other teachers do you think we need to share this information with?
Well, I know that they've been using fractions and measurement in science, so we may want to inform their science teachers of, you know, some areas of weakness.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
What does the data tell us about our instruction? What strategies, activities, resources, and assessments need to remain in our unit, and what do you think we need to change?
I need to see if I was able to use all the resources that were listed in the unit. So if anybody had any additional resources that they found for Learning Objective 2, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the unit that's in the Google Doc.
Well, I think that since, like we said earlier, our learning objectives that didn't do so well in our classrooms are also different, that maybe if we came next time with things that worked for us, things that didn't necessarily work for us for almost each one, whoever had 3 did really well with 3 and 4, you could help me, and then I could help you with, you know, 1 and 2, and so forth and so on.
That'd be fantastic.
So why don't we do that next time? Just bring and share resources and best practices from our classrooms that pertain to these specific student learning objectives.
That sounds great.
Okay?
All right, well, I think we did a great job today, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks.
All right.
In the early part of a CAR process, PLC teams unpacked the standards and created clear, student-friendly learning objectives. As you have seen in this video, these SLOs have now been used to assess students' progress in the summative end-of-unit assessment. Alignment throughout all steps of the instructional process, from curriculum development to instructional decisions to formative and summative assessments, is critical if we are to improve student learning. When teachers analyze summative assessment data collaboratively, their work significantly impacts teacher practice and student learning. They respond to the data by revising curriculum, modifying assessments, and seeking targeted areas for professional learning that will improve teaching and learning. These are key pieces in creating a continuous cycle of school improvement.